Welcome to Anderson AdBreak, a mini podcast series hosted by Maddie
and Chelsea
and Sam. Something's a little different.
I wonder what it is, you guys.
Could be this cool headset.
Could be this cool. It's so amazing being able to hear your guys' voices. I feel like I don't need to talk as loud anymore.
No, this equipment is awesome thanks to our leadership team.
Yes, thank you. We asked and they delivered, and we're very happy.
And that's what's so awesome about our leadership team. They saw how passionate we were about the podcast, and so they invested in us.
Yeah.
So.
Well, guys, I'm very excited for our guest today. He actually is in this room right now with us.
Whoa.
Should we say it on 3?
Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Carson!
So yeah, today our video editor and motion designer, Carson Schilling, will be joining the podcast. He does so much for this agency, and he's recently been really kicking some butt. American Advertising Federation Phoenix chapter, they have an award ceremony called the Addies, and he won a couple. He won some silver and gold Addies for his work that he did on Harkins, I believe. And we're just so proud of him. I'm excited.
Yeah, he's accomplished so much. So I'm excited to kind of just dive in and get to pick his brain about what he does, what he's passionate about.
Yeah. All right,
Let's
Carson.
do it.
You ready to switch places with me?
Well, welcome to the other side of Anderson AdBreak, Carson.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's weird sitting in front of the cameras and in front of the lens instead of behind. So
Yeah, you don't know what's going on now. Are you going to be okay with that?
I know. I'm like a fish out of water. I don't know what's happening.
All right. Well, let's just start off with some get to know you questions so we can figure out who you are.
So I believe you are a movie buff. Is this true?
Me?
Oh, no, you don't seem like one.
Yes, very much so. Yes, I feel like I'm generally considered the office cinephile. But yeah, I've loved movies my whole life. I grew up watching movies all by myself. I'm an only child, so a lot of my time was just spent watching movies, TV shows, and it's kind of what educated me and kind of what raised me growing up. So
Just you and your screen.
Just me and my screen.
Or is there any characters that you relate to the most?
For me, movies that I love aren't necessarily always because of certain characters that I can relate to. It's just stuff that comes from a new perspective or a new anything that's that I can watch and be transported into a different person's perspective, a different person's world. But for me, I don't directly relate to anyone specific, but I did realize I think I'm gonna choose Air Bud.
I love Air Bud.
I have been told I have golden retriever energy.
You do. You definitely do.
I feel yeah, that's probably the closest character that I can actually relate to, you know?
A dog.
A dog, yeah.
I love it.
I'm owning it, so
Are you?
I think that,
do you
yeah.
even play basketball?
No.
Okay.
You're tall though, so
No.
you could.
No.
I know that you have a whole movie poster wall next to your desk. You're the
do.
only one who gets a cool wall. But are they just a bunch of random movies? Any of them actually mean anything? Or are you just this is pretty?
All of those do mean a lot to me. That's
Yeah.
art that I found from independent artists at different Etsy shops or gifts that I got
Etsy.
from friends. But it's all custom independent art that people made, their own
Okay.
versions of movie posters. But yeah, every movie up on the wall is something that just means something to me.
Do you have a favorite?
Of the movie poster wall?
Duh.
I really like the La La Land poster that I have up.
Okay.
Because I think the poster's gorgeous, the one that the artist made. And it's also one of my favorite movies, my favorite Damien Chazelle movie. That movie means a lot to me because my second character that I could relate to that I was thinking about was Sebastian from La La Land. So, yeah, I really like that one.
Are you going to be mad at me if I say I've never seen La La Land?
I haven't either. Okay, so we're done here.
It was really nice to meet you.
Well, I'm not mad, but I do think you guys should watch it.
So are you
it's
saying maybe during lunch we should put that on the TV?
I think so. We got a big TV out there right for it. I think we should.
What would you consider yourself to be a subject matter expert in?
Well, outside of work and here at Anderson, just everything video editing, motion design, not everything animation, but some parts of animation and a lot of VFX too. I mean, everything you see on Anderson's socials and for Harkins and for all of our clients that has some kind of motion, generally I touch, because Allie and Sarah handle all of our like static images and all of our design elements. But if you want to make them move, you move them over to me. And so I do a lot of animation for like taking static images and giving them some subtle motion to help with like different social things. Well, I mean, one of the biggest parts of my job is, as you guys know, Harkins. And so we do a lot of takeovers and AV displays, wall scrolls, a lot of different things where I'll be taking like movie art and helping stuff move to make it more engaging for anybody who happens to be walking into a Harkins.
For all of our friends that don't know what a takeover or an AV display is, what might that look like if you walk into the Harkins? So
if you walk into a Harkins, specifically the Camelview Fashion Square Harkins, you'll see these super tall, like 50, 60 foot tall screens that are like super skinny, and we call them wall scrolls. And those, along with all of the clusters of posters down each hallway and the main like horizontal HDN screen that you see as you walk in, those are all part of a takeover. So what I edit is I get pieces from studios, or if it's not sponsored, we'll take the movie art on our own and like take bits and pieces out, Photoshop things out, so that way I have a lot of different pieces to move and animate. And basically when a takeover starts, like the house lights dim, the like colorful lights that Paula Harkins programs comes on, and the trailer's playing at the same time, along with all the animation on all the posters, the wall scrolls. Everything happens at the same time to kind of give Harkins guests like a general immersive experience for when they walk in and see like, oh, this is a takeover for the new Disney movie Elemental. And oh, it's here, it's there.
You've also won a ton of Addies for your takeovers, specifically the Elemental that you just mentioned. It's on its way to nationals, and there's a possibility that you could win a gold for that.
That'd be pretty cool. That would be very, very cool.
It would have to go on the movie poster wall.
Oh, yeah.
It would. I feel like it would, yeah. So for the Elemental one, at our local Arizona Addies, we won a gold and a silver for the Elemental Takeover. And we did one for the Disney movie Wish as well, which we won a gold and a bronze for, I believe. So 4 awards, and we were able to get a gold for the Elemental one at the regional Addies for a lot of the southwestern states, which was really, really cool. And now it's on to nationals.
Since you are so knowledgeable in video editing, are like any movies ruined for you just based off of video editing that you can pick out?
Do not say Elemental.
Yes, very much so. I have movie watching often ruined for me because I am so hypercritical of editing in movies that I'll notice something and be like, oh, that was an awkward cut. Like, why did they choose to cut there? Why didn't they just linger another second or two? Or why did they choose to keep this shot in there? Even in dramas, there will be so many awkward cutaways to people's reaction, or cutaways to people saying something, or a different awkward shot that it's like, that doesn't make sense for this scene. Why did you cut there, and what was the storytelling purpose of that? Because when you're editing a movie or a short film or a Harkins Takeover or anything, the goal is to tell a story, and the goal is to make sure that your editing and your cut choices tell that story as well. And obviously most editors work very closely with the directors and with the producers of a movie in the post-production process. But there's why there's so many choices that I see that's like, how did this contribute to the overall story? This doesn't make sense.
All right, that ends the Get to Know You segment. So let's just dive into some hard-hitting questions.
So how did you get involved in filmmaking to begin with?
Well, like I mentioned, I grew up loving movies and just having those be my main source of just media that inspired me and things that I went to when I was alone or I was bored. I've always loved movies. And in high school, my high school didn't have a very good media program at all, but they had one class that was media production, and it was very basic. It was just here's how to turn on the camera, here's how to move footage, here's how to perform basic edits. And I learned a lot of stuff in there when I was just a wee little lad. But after that, throughout all of high school, I knew I was okay, well, generally media is what I want to get into. And then I had a little bit of a rough time out of high school, transitioning into college, not quite knowing what I wanted to do, and not quite sure because there's the age-old question of like what you want to do versus what's going to make you money and blah blah blah.
And you're only 18, and
I'm
how are
only
you supposed
18.
to know?
Yeah, exactly. And so I knew I wanted to get into like film, but I was like told by a lot of people around me like, well, how are you going to make money off of that? How are you going to do this and that? And so I was a little bit discouraged at the time. But summer of 2017, the movie Baby Driver came out, which I'm not sure if any of you have seen. I have one of my posters up on the wall, actually. My favorite Edgar Wright movie of all time, and one of my favorite movies of all time, and mostly because of the editing in that.
Yeah.
It has some of the most unique, awesome, fantastic editing I've ever seen in my life. So much to the point that like it literally inspired me to be like, oh, I want to be an editor. Like this is really, really cool. And so in that, luckily it was that summer of me transitioning into college, and that's when I was like, okay, now I get to choose my track.
Yeah.
And so I went to ASU in the film program, and then I transitioned into the first 2 years were just a lot of like basic courses, but then the last 2 years were actually the FMP, Film and Media Productions program, where you got to choose a track, and so I chose post-production. So that's where I learned all my editing and VFX and motion graphic stuff, and I give a lot of that credit to Baby Driver for just like inspiring me to like kickstart my editing career.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is what I want to do. And not necessarily always something like an action movie like that, but it played a big part in like, this is it. This is it for me.
So in the editing, is it just like the shots you were talking about before? Is it also like the animation and motion graphics that like we're blaming right now?
A lot of it was just like the editing and actual cutting of it. Like the movie starts with like an 8-minute like chase sequence, and you're not quite sure who the characters are or what's going on, but through just the editing, you find out like, oh, that's who these people are. That's what's going on. He's the getaway driver. These are the robbers. These are the police chasing them. You get a good feel for that without a lot of dialogue. Okay. And the whole movie is like soundtrack driven too. It has like one of the most amazing soundtracks, and it's like the editing is fueled by the music. And it's just, I've always been a very rhythmic editor because I was also a musician growing up, and it's just a perfect combination of all of my interests growing up that just like, boom, it's like a supernova of inspiration.
Yeah. So how long have you been at Anderson?
Tomorrow actually will be my 2-year anniversary in Anderson.
Wow.
Finally in my terrible twos.
Yeah. So. It shows.
I started here April 2022, which was almost a full year after I graduated college. And I had a couple of jobs, 2 different jobs before here at Anderson, but after college that were not good. But not good in a general workplace sense, but good in the sense that like it helped me grow.
You got your
grow my skills. Yeah. Got my experience and realized like, helped me realize like this is not how I want a team to operate. This is not how I want my coworkers to interact with each other, or how I want creative to be made. And it was a bit of a rough transition out of college into those jobs, and just like, wow, is this really what the industry is like? Like, are these the kind of jobs I'm going to be having for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
But luckily, I found this amazing agency and started here, and hence me being here for 2 years now, because it's amazing.
Yeah. Were you at agencies before? Or was it a different...
Not really. It was, my first job out of college was at a labor staffing agency, which I had to start work at, I think it was 6 a.m. It was one of those jobs that I like found on LinkedIn when I graduated, just to be like quick apply to everything. Yeah. And I took it because it was advertised as a videographer, video editing job, and it didn't really have a media department at all, and didn't have anybody making video content or paid ads or anything. And so they basically brought me on to be like the head of that. And so I came fresh out of college into this role where it was like, oh, you need to start this like creative team and start making stuff. And also here's 0 resources. And I was like, oh,
I hope you have your own video camera.
I mean, I did. I had to bring in my own laptop, my own video camera, all my own equipment, which is already like a liability in itself. Yeah. But it was just a rough 4 or 5 months that I was there because I didn't know what I was doing. Like I got out of college and wanted to be able to like learn and like ease more into and grow. And it was just like here you go. Here's your job, and you're going to be creating ads that are going to be playing on Instagram across the country. You know how to do that, right? And also, you know how to handle media, right? And digital marketing, right? And I'm like,
hey,
I'll try.
Well, now you're here.
Yeah, and
now we got people to do all the other things.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, after that job, I was so overwhelmed with everything, and it was eventually they hired a second person. It was just me and this other guy that were just handling everything. But even then, it was just quite a mess, and I wasn't happy there.
Yeah.
So then I had found a different job at a small production company in Tempe, where I was a video editor, and I was only there for 3 or 4 months. The work I did was fun. We did a lot of like brand films and ads for clients. But for that job in specific, it was the culture that like made me start to look for a new job. Because it was just it was a small team of like 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
And the culture was just like non-existent. Like,
you were just like, I need somewhere that has dogs.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I need somewhere with life and like good people. And green and lots of green. But it was like the 2 people that like owned the company wouldn't show up on any days, and like it would only be me and like 2 or 3 other coworkers that were just kind of left to fend for ourselves. And it was at a WeWork office in Tempe that like we were crammed in one little tiny office just on our computers. And I just felt like a rat in a maze almost. As fun as co-working spaces like WeWork try to be, you're never going to replicate like the feeling of an agency like ours, and like how well we all get along. And it's great.
It's good vibes all around here.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got these new microphones.
I know, we got amazing crisp audio.
Beautiful. So kind of like, what is the difference between like those past jobs, like, and everything that you learned from those positions? How did that kind of transition to now being at an agency?
Mostly those previous 2 jobs that I had taught me what I'm not looking for, and taught me that like the roles that I was in are not what I should be in, and not what's going to help the development of my career. Because being thrown into like nearly a leadership position in my first job, and then having like no culture in my second job, just like combination of those 2 was just like I'm learning more and more about what I don't like about my workspace.
And it sucks, but sometimes it's best for you to go through that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like
yeah,
I like looking back, I'm just like, wow, that was a nightmare. Like those jobs were really awful, but all part of the development, all part of my career growth into getting here and realizing that this is like for me the perfect position for me and where I need to be for my career, and develop soft skills with everybody that works here, and just a lot of things that I love about Anderson that just makes me so comfortable with my position.
So what are some things that you wish you would have known before starting at an agency?
I wish I would have known mostly about like workflow process. And because I had such a hard time with the previous jobs, I was like thrown into situations that I was just kind of had to quickly adapt to. But the great thing about Anderson is that like when I started here, I was given plenty of space and time to like develop and get used to agency life, because it is so much different than a big corporation or a freelance position or anything. It's you're not working by yourself, but you're not being severely micromanaged by a bunch of higher ups and executives.
So what do you recommend for either students that are in college, or they might be starting to look for their very first job straight out of college? What do you recommend for them that are experiencing the job hunt?
The biggest thing I would recommend is just like do a lot of different stuff. I mean, even throughout my time in college and the film program, like there's a big stereotype that like people in film school like just kind of goof off and don't do a lot, and you're just doing it because it's easy and you're trying to be a famous movie star. But like there's a lot of good skills you learn in school, and a lot of hard skills too. But that's not everything, because school, I feel like college in general, I feel like can only do so much. And you need to, in order to truly get yourself into the industry you want to be in my case, editing, visual effects, you got to like go out of your way to do stuff and practice. And so my biggest advice would be to just like make projects of your own and take time to film goofy YouTube videos with your friends and try out different editing techniques in Premiere and After Effects, and just try a lot of different things and get yourself in a regular habit of still doing things outside of what will make you money, you know?
Yeah.
Because
kind of build your portfolio for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Because I made stupid YouTube videos in high school when I was a kid, which are still up. So go check those out.
I need
Carson
to find
Schilling
those.
YouTube. Like you guys know, I have an annual tradition of making a top 20 video of my top 20 favorite movies of the year. And it's videos like that I force myself to do every year because I know it's good for my own creative growth.
Yeah.
And I always try to do something new that I learned the past year, or a new editing technique, or a new animation trick that I learned. I'm currently working on a short film with some people that I knew from college, and I'm currently in post-production for that. There's just outside projects that I feel like you need to keep doing and keep yourself moving so your creative brain doesn't shut down and you don't get into such a routine.
Yeah.
Because then I bring those creative ideas into our actual work, and I can provide a lot new insight and a lot new tricks that we can try to help make our client work even better.
I know we talked about Harkins, but what other clients do you work on? What other kinds of video projects have you done at Anderson in the last 2 years?
Last 2 years. Well, the majority of my job, I would say, would be Harkins, just because that's the majority of our video work comes through them, and we have such a massive influx of different kinds of projects for them to do.
Yeah.
But I handle a lot of the motion for Anderson Social and the holiday video that we make every year.
Love those.
Those are always so fun. And we do a lot of shooting and editing videos for Goodyear Ballpark and the city of Goodyear, North Country Healthcare, occasionally Science Center videos that we do.
So how do you add your own little Carson flair into client work?
Like I mentioned before with Baby Driver, it's a very rhythm-based, very fun, energetic movie. And I feel like because I used to be a musician and because I always have some kind of rhythm or beat in my head tapping along, I am a very rhythmic editor, and I feel like that's part of my own personal style for editing, is being very geared towards music and how something flows and feels as you're editing. Because there's nothing worse than a choppy edit or a choppy, broken video that you're watching that you're just this feels awkward.
Yeah. Okay, so outside of work, I know you do your top 20 video. You also are part of a film festival?
Something like that, yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
So I had an internship actually during college with the Phoenix Film Festival at the end of 2019. And I was doing a lot of administrative stuff and planning and coordinating and some website development here and there. And then we went to 2020 and it got shut down. But I had a good 6-7 months of experience working with them and getting a feel for how a festival is run. And so after I graduated, I actually reached back out to Jason Carney, who is executive director of the Phoenix Film Festival, and just to reach out and reconnect with him, and mostly because I was struggling with those jobs like we talked about earlier, and I was just trying to build my network and get a feel for people around the Valley in the film community, which I feel like networking is also a super important thing for people our age that are trying to go out and develop their careers. And so because I made that connection to Jason at the film festival, he kind of brought me on as just an odds and ends guy. Yeah. And he actually made up a position for me as festival coordinator, which is pretty cool. And I'm really honored that title. I know, it's crazy. I'm really honored that he wanted me to be a part of it and be a part of the admin team as coordinator. So the first year, I started that in 2021. And so, I just kind of help out with events and panels and any planning behind the scenes. I do a lot of film judging before the festival to see actually what makes it into the festival. Ooh. I know, it's really fun.
So important.
I know, I feel I'm so honored that he brought me in at this capacity because I'm I feel like I don't deserve to be there. I sometimes feel like I have a little bit of that imposter syndrome almost of why did I get brought onto this? Why do people trust me with this?
Yeah, because you're good at what you do.
But it's just it's a great feeling being a part of the Phoenix Film Festival and being a part of the film community in the Valley, because it is a nonprofit too, the Phoenix Film Foundation, and being able to help with this event that happens every year and get more filmmakers to show off their films and to get more presence in the community. It's just so important for to me, it's so important to volunteer for something like that.
You can like combine your passion and then also do something great for the community and great for like small filmmakers in the Valley that maybe aren't well known.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's valuable to the work that you do here too.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of admin stuff that I do at the festival that like helps me understand what you guys do more with the account side of things and the media side of things and the social side of things. Because there's people at the festival that run those kinds of things too, that run their social media and run their like accounts and coordinations with the filmmakers. It's a lot of that kind of stuff that I'm just like, oh, these are transferable skills. Like this can go back and forth either way, and I think it's mutually beneficial for everything.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So where do you find your inspiration from, and what additional resources for college graduates wanting to get started, like what would you recommend?
I find a lot of my inspiration from, just movies. I know it's a simple answer, and because I am a big movie buff, but it is truly the truth, because I have never seen so many people that I went to film school with just not watch movies. And it's something as simple as just like participating in what you're learning about that helps you learn more and helps educate yourself. As film students and as people who are working in the industry, I'm like, why aren't you watching these movies? Like the best way to learn about the industry at large, and especially like filmmaking, is to just watch movies. Yeah. It's like the best education you can get. And so I find a lot of inspiration from that, because I'll see like a fun effect in a movie that I think looks cool, or a fun transition or something that I'll be like, oh, I could do that using this template or this effect, and I could try that for Harkin stuff, or I could try that with Goodyear stuff or Anderson Social. There's a lot of things that I see that help give me inspiration to like work that we actually do here too, and help elevate it even more. Yeah.
So basically, what I've gotten from this, if I was an entry-level film editor, I need to try all the things and watch movies.
Yes. It's as simple as watch movies and just make stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it's bad. Like, I've made so many bad projects in my life that I look back now and I cringe on, and it's like, oh God, this is rough. But looking at stuff like that, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Like the way I shot stuff and edited stuff, I'm just like, I was just a baby. I was just learning things. And it's all part of your development, is just making videos, doing stuff. Even if it's just like TikToks or Instagram stuff, just like make videos, watch movies. Yeah. Go out of your way to make that part of your own personal life. And you'll find inspiration everywhere.
And it's kind of like you can't be afraid to fail. Because it's like, I feel like that's what stops a lot of people from making those things. It's like, oh, I don't want to hear the criticisms. I don't want to put myself out there. So it's like, you just can't be afraid to fail. Just post those videos.
Yeah, just do the stuff. Like, you can't be afraid to make something that's going to be cringe that you look back on in 10 years and you're just like, oh, that's ugly, let me delete this, this is terrible. It's like, no, that's part of your growth, and you should be proud of where you were at versus where you are now. And there's so many new up and coming filmmakers now that are like our age, maybe a little bit older, that like they had an internet presence and they have those old cringy comedy videos that are on YouTube in 2006 or whatever. But it's like, it's fun to be able to look at that and be like, oh, wow, you just won an Oscar and you have this stupid video where you're dancing in front of the camera or something. Like, it's just such a big career growth that's really cool to see.
Well, thank you so much for jumping in front of the camera and letting us pick your brain.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to kick you back behind the camera and make sure that we look okay.
That is all fine by me. I will be hopping back behind the camera now.
Usually when we recap the episodes with the people that we interviewed, they're not in the room with us.
No, I think the main thing about Carson that I admire is like he really like chose his passion as his like main job. You know, when he was talking about that time when he was 18 going through it, not knowing what he wanted to do with his life. I think the fact that he chose something that he was passionate about really helped him. I mean, think about it. He's won like awards here at Anderson. He's like a lot of personal growth, just like even since I've known him working here.
One of the things that like stood out to me was because I've also been in a situation where I was in a not so happy workspace and like, but you learn from it. Yeah. Like you have to, and then you figure out what you do and don't want as you go through those experiences. And it's like, it doesn't matter what role you're in. Right. it's an everyone thing.
You're learning what you don't want, and you're learning, like, you're having those new experiences to better yourself and to get somewhere. Like, he got to Anderson. He's like, oh, this is what I do want out of an agency. This is what I want from my coworkers and from my culture. So that's always just like a good reminder.
But that's one thing that I also took away from him as well, is that looking at people that are set in their careers, they got there because they're doing what Carson's doing right now. He is constantly learning new tricks and how to apply that to his job.
And
growing.
I want to say another takeaway about Carson's interview, which I love so much, was that when he was talking about just do, the cool thing about Anderson is, like, everyone that we work with at all different ages, we're all constantly learning and evolving together and trying new things. Like, think about it, we're all doing this podcast together, you know?
Yeah. Just do it.
Just do it. I'm so glad that he was able to step from behind the camera to in front of the camera, so we got to learn more from him.
Yes. And we just want to say thank you so much for watching today's episode. We hope you took something away, and we hope that you come back for future episodes. So stay tuned and have a great day.